This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this very special presentation, Media Messages About Stalking, in honor of National Stalking Awareness Month, which is January. My name is Melanie Jackman, work at Montgomery County Women's Center. We are a local nonprofit that works with victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and we're excited that you're here with us today. So as a society, we aren't taught very much about stalking. We mostly learn about stalking through how it's presented in the media. So today we're going to talk about exactly that and look more specifically at a couple of popular TV shows. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the show You on Netflix. So first, I want you to think about how you would describe You to a potential viewer. Okay, so take just a second, write down one or two sentences that briefly describe the show overall. Any seasons, all seasons, without any spoilers, and then we'll compare it to the Netflix promotional text. So take just a second, even if you write down just some words that pop in your mind. So something to think about is consider what words are coming up in your response, especially words that describe Joe as dangerous. For example, stalker, thriller, scary, etc. So Netflix has its own short description of the series You. So the Netflix description of the series You reads a 21st century love story about an obsessive yet brilliant 20-something named Joe who uses hyperconnectivity of today's technology to make the women of his dreams fall in love with him. So think about how this description compares to your proposed description. Are there discrepancies? Do you agree with this definition that Netflix gives, or the way that they describe the show? I'm going to ask you a couple of follow-up questions. So first and foremost, think about, is this really a love story? If so, who is this a love story for? Who is this for? Is Joe's behavior motivated by love, and does it matter? Is obsessive yet brilliant an accurate description of Joe? And is anything else missing from this description? Okay, so first and foremost, is this a love story? If so, for whom? So love story begs the question, for who? It's more of a nightmare and a horror movie for most of the women that encounter Joe. Would you agree? Okay, and is Joe's behavior motivated by love? Joe's behavior may or may not always be motivated by love. It seems that a lot of times his motivation is entitlement, revenge, control, and anger are all other things that seem to be motivating Joe. And regardless of Joe's motivations, intent is different than impact. The impact is that he controls, violates, and even kills those around him. Okay, next question. Is obsessive yet brilliant an accurate description for Joe? Obsessive yet brilliant is a flattering description for Joe. It makes him sound like a tortured genius, not the violent criminal that he is. And would you say that anything else is missing from this description? We would definitely say that words like stalking, thriller, violent, and dark might be more accurate to describe the show. So the truth is, You is a psychological thriller, not a romance. However, throughout the series, Joe refers to romantic films and even points out how his actions mirror those of romantic quote unquote heroes. A popular trope in romantic comedies suggests that if you pursue someone persistently enough and push through their disinterest and rejection, they will eventually fall in love with you. What guys like Joe have what guys like Joe have you seen represented in romantic films or stories? What are some examples of other movies where one character has pursued someone relentlessly as part of a quote unquote love story? Romantic films often include protagonists who are guys like Joe, ones who stop at nothing to quote unquote get the girl. Usually there are no negative consequences for their actions. In fact, the stalking is generally successful and they persuade their initial reluctant romantic interest that they should actually be together. They're rewarded despite requests to stop and ignoring their rejections. This romantic pursuit usually ends with quote unquote guys like Joe winning over their love interests. The stalker wears them down until they come around and see the truth. These characters are often presented as awkward, funny, sweet, and or passionate rather than scary and problematic. So think for just a second where you've seen some of these behaviors pop up in other areas of the media. Okay, so here are four more examples of how stalking is portrayed as romance. So in the Twilight series, Edward repeatedly stalks Bella, including breaking into her room, watching her sleep, and following her. In the 50 Shades series, Christian Grey shows up where Anastasia Steele is and monitors her behavior without her consent multiple times. John Cusack in the 80s movie Say Anything, standing outside of his ex's home with a boombox playing the song they listened to when they were first intimate, even after she has asked him to leave her alone. And lastly, Ben Stiller in Something About Mary hires a private investigator to find his high school crush and stalks her throughout the entire film. So, how are these characters usually presented? Are they funny, sweet, awkward, scary? What are the outcomes of their stalking behaviors? Are they punished or rejected? The simple answer is they're often presented as awkward, funny, sweet, or passionate rather than just downright scary. If you think about their behaviors happening in real life, they would actually be scary. Typically, the outcome is positive and they end up getting the girl. Their target or romantic interest range from annoyed to flattered, but rarely scared of their interactions. So, what is the line between romantic pursuit, flirting, getting to know someone, doing thoughtful actions, and stalking? So, if the target or victim feels afraid, then it's across the line. If the target or victim is uncomfortable or told the person to stop and they didn't, it's across the line. But technically, it is a bit subjective. Romantic pursuits can look different at different stages of life. Adolescents and college students may be more assertive than older adults, for example. So, taking a look back at you, many fans of the show have expressed a love for Joe, tweeting things like, "Kidnap me, please," and Pin Badgley is breaking my heart. As Joe, what is it about him? So, what is it about Joe's behavior that may be appealing to viewers? What romantic ideas does this invoke? So I think that a lot of this is appealing to the fantasy that you're just so innately special that someone instantly sees the goodness in you. Someone is fascinated by you and has chosen you. It's especially appealing when it's an attractive person. Imagine if Joe was not attractive. Would this then be something that is annoying or scary versus something that is exciting? Okay, also, this concept of love at first sight plays into this, the concept that all is fair in love and war, and I'll do anything for love. When viewers fantasize, they're taking an active role in expressing a desire for something to happen. They have control. As a character, Beck did not make this choice and had no control. So let's look at stalking fantasy versus reality. So, stalking in the media often creates a fantasy of stalking that is different than the reality. Stalkers are often presented as attractive strangers or secret admirers with good intentions. In reality, stalkers are usually someone known to the victim, intended to cause fear, and are likely to become threatening and or violent. Okay? So the fantasy is that the stalker is an attractive stranger or a secret admirer. The stalker has only good and pure intentions, usually romantic, and they love them. The stalker's actions range from sexy to flattering to harmless, and the stalker's target should feel amused, flattered, and or affectionate towards the stalker. The reality is that the stalker is usually known to the victim and is most often a current or former intimate partner. Stalkers have different motivations, but often intend to scare their victims and or do not stop when the victim is scared. Stalking can escalate quickly and often co-occurs with or predicts serious violence, and stalking victims report feeling um, emotional distress. Again, it's essential to recognize the media does not cause stalking. Casually using the term stalking does not cause stalking. Many people are exposed to the same media and language and do not choose to stalk. Only perpetrators are responsible for the behavior. Impacts of media normalization. I think we can agree that there definitely are impacts of this behavior being normalized within the media. Okay. So, again, the media does not cause stalking. However, the messages that media sends can create a warped landscape in which stalking is minimalized, normalized, accepted, and or just laughed off. A lot of media on stalking is from the stalker's perspective and shows hopeless romantics with good intentions. Instead, we should be focusing on how victims feel about stalking and empathizing with them. Victims may minimize or dismiss their experiences instead of taking early warning signs seriously. So, impacts of media normalization, it builds empathy with the stalker rather than the victims, leads victims to minimize their experiences, leads potential support and or friends of the victim to dismiss the experiences that they're having. It misinforms the general public about the dangers and realities of stalking and creates an environment where stalkers can get away with it. All right. So, how can we help? Here at Montgomery County Women's Center, we offer a whole host of free services for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault and stalking, two of which are free counseling and free legal assistance. Additionally, we offer emergency shelter as well as transitional housing for those that have been affected by instances such as these. On the bottom, you can find our contact information to our business office Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our counseling office has extended hours in the evening to be able to accommodate victims and survivors. There's our phone number with the extension, legal services as well, phone number and extension. And we also operate a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week crisis hotline that is available to victims, survivors, friends, family members, as well as advocates and other people who come in contact with victims or survivors needing assistance. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again on another presentation.